So I wanted to shoot a quick video about some thoughts that I had this weekend. I was actually visiting a friend this weekend and she lives a couple of hours away, so on Friday afternoon I had to hop into my car and drive for 3 hours in order to get to her place. And then today on Sunday I drove the 3 hours back to get back to my hometown. So that means that just this weekend I spent 6 hours sitting in the car driving on the highway, or the German Autobahn. And what I did during that time though was I brought my iPad with me and I listened to podcasts that I downloaded beforehand. I listened to the Tim Ferriss Show, for example, by Tim Ferriss, the author of the 4-Hour Work Week. And I also listened to the really cool show Freakonomics Radio by Steve Dubner. So during that 6 hours, I basically spent the entire time listening to really cool and interesting and informative podcasts. And it got me thinking, why is it that so few people actually use that time that they spend in a car anyway and that they have to spend sitting there anyway? Why is it that they don't use that time more effectively? I mean, actually I'm the only person I know who really listens to podcasts and audiobooks and that kind of stuff while driving. Most of the people, they just either don't listen to anything, they just hold on to their steering wheel and they stare ahead, and maybe they have some thoughts on their mind, but that is really it. And then you have the other kind of people who listen to music on the radio, often bullshit pop music they don't even really enjoy listening to, or they listen to the commercials that are run on the radio. So really what they're doing is whenever they drive their cars, they're essentially wasting their time. I mean, this is so much time that they keep wasting and they could use for so much more purposeful stuff. I read once that the average American person spends 4 to 5 years sitting and driving around in cars during their entire life. So really let that sink in for a minute. 4 to 5 years of your entire lifespan goes into just driving around in cars. And of course sometimes you have company and you have people that you can chat with, but a lot of the time you just sit there by yourself. Either driving to work, commuting to work, or maybe you do what I did this weekend, you drive to visit a friend, or maybe you just drive to the supermarket to pick up some groceries. And this time really doesn't seem that much when you're just in your car for maybe half an hour or an hour to drive somewhere real quick, but it really adds up. I mean, imagine how much 4 to 5 years is. I mean, it's a crazy amount of time. And imagine the difference that it could make if you used that time wisely. If you really made that commitment to not just waste that time, but instead soak up as much knowledge as possible during that time. I mean, you really have to imagine how much knowledge you could absorb if you quit what you're doing right now and you would just read for the next 5 years straight. You would not sleep, you would not eat, you would not work, you would not meet other people. You would sit your ass down and you would read book after book after book after book for 5 years straight. Imagine the amount of knowledge you could gain during that time. Imagine what a different person you would be after those 5 years. I mean, you would literally consume thousands of books, and the knowledge from all these books and all these authors who wrote those books would share their knowledge through their books with you during those 5 years. So you could basically spend those 5 years becoming an expert in not only one field of expertise or one certain thing that you're interested in. You could learn so much. You could learn a ridiculous amount of things during those 5 years. And of course, nobody can read 5 years straight. That's crazy to think, but these 5 years are really something that you own, that you have, and that you decide to waste throughout your lifetime if you're just listening to bullshit pop music or not listening to anything at all while driving in your car. If you're that kind of person who sits in his car, stares out of the front window, holds on to the steering wheel, and does that for literally 5 years of your lifetime, this is literally what you're doing for 5 years. Then you're fucking crazy. I mean, really think about that. And think about what it could mean for your life and for yourself if you made the decision to, instead of wasting those 5 years, essentially throwing them into the trash, and consciously doing so, if you instead made the decision to use those 5 years to become smarter every time you jump into your car to get from A to B, you could become smarter, you could gain more knowledge, and you could really change who you are throughout your lifetime. You could die a lot smarter someday than you will when you just decide that your car is a machine that gets you from A to B and that's all there is to it. If that is what you think, then you're really wasting resources, you're wasting your time, which is your most valuable resource, and you're being plain stupid if this is what you want to do for 5 years of your lifetime. So I would highly recommend you that you check out audiobooks and you check out podcasts, and you make it a habit that whenever you get into your car and you're by yourself and you have nobody to talk to, that you just soak up as much knowledge as possible during that time. Just don't waste it. Don't waste any second of your life. So keep that in mind the next time you go for a ride in your car.